Welcome to a crucial discourse reverberating across the chambers of Washington, D.C. Government officials with parted political stripes are locked in a contentious debate on the subject of immigration reform. With the global migrant crisis escalating and long-term border security in question, there has never been a more pressing time to tackle this daunting issue. From one side of the spectrum to the other, stark differences of opinion are sparking intense discussions and vehement opposition. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our videos. The fulcrum of this escalating collision of perspectives is an intricate web of reform measures, which if passed into law, will strongly determine the future of millions of immigrants. On one side of this red-hot debate, Republican legislators advocate for tough high-security borders and stringent enforcement of immigration laws. They clamor for protective mechanisms, underpinning national security as their chief concern. Up against them, Democratic counterparts stand for a more sympathetic refuge policy, supporting wider pathways to citizenship, with an emphasis on human rights, empathy, and altruism. Enhanced border patrol and stricter immigration policies find scant support in their ranks. Quite predictably, this sharp divergence leads to unyielding disagreements and unremitting frictions. Contributing to this fiery brouhaha, former President Donald Trump's rigid immigration policies and the controversial U.S.-Mexico border wall loom large. His administration focused on drastic policies, firmly against large-scale immigration, which led to impassioned debates and wide-scale protests. His policies still shape the landscapes of opinions and remold the contours of the political terrain with an impact that is hard to ignore. Amidst this vortex of adversities, tens of thousands of protesters strive to hold sway over lawmakers, suffusing the crisp Washington air with fervor and unity. They sway and chant, bearing placards emblazoned with slogans calling for fair, just, and humane immigration policies. Their combined voices echo across the National Mall, asserting a significant presence amidst the grand edifice of the United States Capitol. As the first rays of dawn unfurl themselves over the frosty marble beauty of this resplendent city, both sides of the political divide are caught in the arduous job of defending their positions. Let's grasp the distinct arguments and counter-arguments that are hanging in the wind, prolonging this titanic battle of ideas. Republicans start fundamentally with the importance of resources channeled towards fortifying border security. They argue that porous borders are a threat to the native population, fostering irregular migration and facilitating entry to potential risks. They adamantly insist that hard borders are a deterrent to cartels, absence of which might lead to drug trafficking and illegal entry. Democrats swiftly parry these arguments by pointing at the benefits of migrant movement and emphasizing the need for reforms to fit reality. They focus on pathways to legal citizenship, hoping to implement policies that allow safe and orderly migration. They also demand a pivot towards more humane and dignified conditions of the detention centers, castigating the recent occurrences of human rights abuses. Unyielding, the Republicans counter with the economic costs that struggle hand in hand with immigration. They estimate the impacts on social welfare programs, jobs, wages, and the consequences of making border penetration an easier path than the protracted legal route. They also lament the abuse of the asylum system, which has increasingly become a backdoor to illegal immigration. In response, the Democrats underline the positive economic contributions of immigrants, reminding about their potential as innovators, entrepreneurs, and labor force. They intensify the call to bolster the asylum process, fix the immigration court backlog, and urge to secure foreign aid for nations' cause of the migratory exodus. Succumbing to this deafening cacophony of clashing opinions, the lawmakers huddle in an attempt to marry the polarized propositions, a task as challenging as splitting hairs. The complexities of the issue, compounded by entrenched political wills, might indeed pose a staggering challenge to a significant piece of legislation. As an important part of this debate, the diverse narratives that commingle to shape public opinion are ringing with an inordinate sense of urgency. They form multiple layers of views that focus on different aspects of this contentious issue, thereby creating tumultuous ripples that wash over the corridors of power. From academic research to fieldworker stories, textbooks documentation to media narratives, people's opinions better the debates and alter the course of policies. GOP representatives, individuals who make up the bedrock of hard-right ideologies, are in defiance against any perceivable laxities in the immigration law. They cite the threat of terrorism and disorder that they believe emanates from the voids in the current immigration system. Counterbalancing this, several moderate Republicans seek a pragmatic middle ground. They argue for comprehensive reforms that redouble focus on national security and restore humanity in the system, softening those rigors that propagate indiscriminate separation of families, a policy that has drawn sharp criticism from human rights organizations. On the other side, liberal icons champion for swifter pathways to citizenship and greater acceptance for refugees and asylum seekers. They fervently argue that empathy and inclusivity should be the touchstones guiding immigration policy. To ergo, they alluded to the merit-based program, a system where lawful immigration is possible based on an individual's ability to enrich the nation with their talents and skills, and not just based on family ties. Still, this argument trudges upon a tricky terrain. Such an approach makes credible sense, but it becomes contentious when clubbed with the proposed reduction of family-based immigration. As the camera zooms in on the detailed contours of discussion and emerges from the maze rendered of varied perspectives, a definite pattern begins to appear. It is clear that the competing sides are not as binary as they are painted, but rather complex and nuanced within the spectrum of their respective political ideologies. The polarized truths spoken by them mirror a broader societal discourse, setting the stage for a battle that resonates profoundly beyond the hallowed halls of the political machine. Amidst this ocean of opinion, crucial questions rise to the surface. Does the target of policymaking continue to be solely the titular task of keeping the nation safe and secure? Or does it also encompass the broader thrust of fulfilling the moral imperatives of providing shoulders for those striving for a better life? With temperatures rising as high as the stakes, this debate agglomerates evidence from every conceivable angle of the issue. It wrestles with the questions of sovereignty, national interest, security, job displacement, social integration, public burden, demographic changes, human rights, and humanitarian imperatives, making this issue a political and philosophical wrestling match. A new day dawns in Washington, and the final equations are still a work in progress. The pulse continues to race, and the debate is far from over. The camera pans out from the hustle and bustle of the political insiders to the streets of the city, where the heartbeat of public opinion continues to maintain a rhythm of its own. This debate, although exhausting, merely illuminates the significance of a participatory democracy where governance is not an act of imposition but a subject of discourse. Immigration reform, as entangled and contentious as it might seem, nevertheless invites the marginalized to hurl traditionally entered viewpoints and energizes the lobbies to question perceived wisdom. The debate persists with no readily apparent resolution in sight. However, as long as these discussions continue, as long as the different dimensions of these exchanges exist, there always remains a glimmer of hope. A hope for a future that is driven by negotiation and compromise, a future that recognizes the complexity of reality, and strives to shape policies that preserve the identity, security, and compassionate spirit of the nation. All eyes remain fixed on a horde of policy proposals that sit at the heart of this debate. The fate of these policies remains entwined with the future of those who dream of living on American soil. As the chapters of this exhaustive discourse continue to unfold, the pages of these proposed legislations also continue their journey through the labyrinth of lawmaking, hoping to sound the final call in this decade-spanning debate. As the dimly lit chamber of the Senate takes on an air of quiet, where the clicking of heels and the whispered conversation becomes distinct, one thing is certain. The heated debate on immigration reform has left an imprint on every piece of furniture, every heart, and every mind within these hallowed walls. As we stumble out of this whirlwind debate, threads of multiple thoughts remain intertwined in the backdrop of our collective consciousness. Arguments shall come and go, walls shall rise and fall, but it's the resilient spirit of these debates that shall continue to externally argue, internally reflect, and steadfastly evolve. It is the beacon of the always changing, yet enduring American dream. As the debate on immigration reform makes a tough last stand in the heart of American politics, it reminds us, starkly and poignantly, of the multifaceted face of the nation. A crucible where will, power, empathy, ideology, and reality regularly churn, occasionally with noisy clashes, but mostly with a resolute, if slightly strained, harmony. And in this harmony, in this symphony of debates and discussions, the nation's tune is often being rewritten, with a melody that promises more than justice, peace, prosperity, progress, and of course, unity. Thus, the paradox of democracy rings anew, as both a harbinger of discord and a nurturer of concord. Here, in the heart of the world's mightiest nation, urban dwellers and rural folks, black and white, conservatives and liberals, all nationalities, faith, and race, trespass their dividing lines in the timeless task of sheer dialogue. From the Fourth Estate to the legislature, to the American streets resounding with every political quaver, notes of dissension merge, diverge, and emerge again in an endless cycle of dialectical engagement. Each turn of this cycle inches the cogs of nation-making a bit forward, creating a journey that trails through a highly competitive and constantly remodeling ideological landscape. As the window on this snapshot into the soul of America slowly comes to a close, we realize that the debate on immigration reform, a sore point for many, stands testimonial to the diversity, chiasmus, and the power of reconciling the seemingly incompatible that defines the nation this is. These debates are not just the lifeblood of lawmaking, but also the lifeblood of social shapeshifting, continually asserting the significance of balance, the ubiquity of yin and yang in society, policy, and culture alike. They buy time and provide clarity, they confer power and humility, they deliver chaos and harmony in the end, they bring change. The page remains unturned on what chapters the future will hold, and how that will impact the life and dreams of migrant populations. But for sure, the cycle of debate and dissent will continue, as it has always done across time. It is thus a tale of unbroken evolution and transformation, and more essentially, it's the tale of America fortifying to fulfill its promise, till the debate ends, and change happens. Narrator 31: It makes a complete circle. Being pivotal in shaping formal decisions, the debate moves past legislation to shape broader societal acceptance and thus impact the very fabric of society. As the sun sets on this image-rich connection of themes, from debate and discussions to decisions, from adversities to opportunities, the horizon welds them into a coherent and vibrant plan for a more inclusive and enriched societal future for America.